Good afternoon, Midland and our region. This conversation is specifically with Midlanders, so it's good to be back after a long while that I have not recorded any podcasts in these probably, I don't know how many weeks. So it's good to be all with you all again. And today we have a special treat for all of you. And without further ado, I am going to bring them on. So we're talking about Mr. John Burkholder, one of our city council members at large. John, welcome. And Mr. Tommy Gonzalez, our city manager. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for participating in this. Mr. Gonzalez, is it possible for you to adjust your camera a little bit to your right, or actually, yeah, to your right side? If not, I will return the previous like this. It's okay like this?
Yes.
Okay. So let's do it. So what we're going to do is I want you guys to make believe that nobody knows you. So let's see how people react to that. Pretty much everybody knows you. But again, I would like John first and then Mr. Gonzalez to introduce yourselves to the population, to John, to your voters, and those who did not vote for you, but now you represent the whole city because you are an at-large member. And after you, Mr. Gonzalez, tell a little bit about yourselves. And we are going to have a wonderful conversation today about both of you as people, as a person, and of course, what you do for the city. Just reminding everybody that this is called the Christian Commonwealth of Hope podcast. We're going to be talking about our Christian belief systems. This is what motivates me, inspires me, is to find good Christians, people that have been trying to serve the Lord, doing the best they can to serve God and to represent Him, to represent Jesus in the city, wherever God planted them. And in both of y'all's cases, John as an elected officer, Mr. Gonzalez as a city manager. So that's where we're going to start today. So John, floor is yours. Carry on.
Thank you, Eliel. I appreciate you having us on. So a little bit about myself. I was born in Pecos, Texas, and that's where my family pretty much originated from on the Burkholder side. I moved to Odessa, spent a lot of childhood years in Odessa, then moved to Midland by the time I was in around the 7th grade. Midland became my home from that point forward. I was in and out with school and work. A job that I'd worked for several years took me around the state. But Midland was always home, always ended up coming back here. And so I have a great love for Midland. I grew up in a single mother household for the most part, and was raised in the church. We were one of those families that went to church when they had it on Wednesday, and we went on Sunday morning and then Sunday evening as well. And so that was just part of everyday life. And so grew up in the church, have just a love for Jesus Christ in my heart, and have since at a very, very young age. Later on in life, after I will tell you, I went to college the first time, didn't turn out very successful, was not quite ready, did some hard years of manual labor for our family business in Pecos, and then went back to school. At that time, I went to work for a Fortune 500 company. Spent a lot of years there, worked my way up to the ranks, got to do a lot of amazing things with efficiencies, fixing locations that need to be fixed, making them profitable, and really digging into every aspect of the business to make sure that they were operating at peak efficiency while making sure that there was just a good culture in the buildings. After that, I got into the oil and gas industry. I've been in the oil and gas industry for about 17 years now, and have a very wide background in there. I started a water sourcing company back in 2018, took over managing our family's ranch in 2017, and we are from a ranching family, and so I've been operating on that aspect for quite some time. So that's primarily what I do these days, is manage the surface for our family's properties and the oil and gas activities that go on in the area, and again, source water for the oil and gas side of things. I will tell you, as far as just a little bit of personal things about me, Growing up in the church, I always had a deep affinity and love for the gospel. But as you get a little older and you kind of stray away, but you think that you're in a good spot, and I discovered that I was not. And it's been probably around 16 years ago. I had a friend that asked me to go to a walk to Emmaus. And what was funny, I didn't think that I needed to go to a walk to Emmaus because I was extremely busy. And I'm like, I have a good relationship with Jesus, and I know where I'm at. I'm good. And that couldn't have been further from the truth. It was truly the revival that I needed. I went to walk to Emmaus. God really, he opened up some things in me that I just needed to be opened up. And I can tell you that my relationship with Jesus Christ has been much different. My family, much different. My coworkers, much different. The first thing that I did when I got done was apologize to my family for putting career over so many things in my life. And
Wow.
So I have worked to make sure that I create the balance of keeping God first, family second, work third. We have a job to do, but we have a king to glorify first, and we know that if we put him first, then everything else falls into place, and the doors are open that we need to have opened up. So I have continued to try to live that way. And glorify God in everything that I say and do. When I decided to run for public office, that was something I never had intended to do. It was just a situation that I was put in. I really felt strongly that God put it on my heart and my wife's heart for me to run. And again, I knew that if God has put it on your heart and you continue to glorify him in the way that you present yourself, the way that you treat people, the way that you do things, his light will shine through you and can change the world. And I truly do believe that. So here I am today as a city councilman at large for the city of Midland, and so happy to be able to do it. And for those that voted for me, I'm always very appreciative. For those that did not vote for me, I hope they vote for me next time.
I was talking to Pastor Bo, Harvest Time pastor, and you met him on our AI event. And he said, Elio, I love John. Like the first connection when I introduced you to him, formally, he said, I just love John and I saw Jesus in him. And I was telling him, I said, Pastor John, the more I talk to John and the more I hear John speak about his life, it is almost that I can repeat every single part of his life by now, because I have been supporting you since the special election in 2025, 24?
It was in 2025, the very beginning of the year.
Right. So March and then May, and then we were together again in November. So I've been listening to your story and the consistency that you put things into. This is who I am. This is who my family was. This is where I come from. So I love that. John, thank you so very much. Mr. Gonzalez, I will just pass the microphone to you. As John, just give us a roundabout about your life, where you come from, and if you want to specifically do what John did in terms of your relationship with the Lord. Again, we're talking to a city, a community that is so much rooted in what God is, what the Word of God is, who Jesus is, who the blood of the cross is, salvation, all of that. So you are home. Please talk to the people that you have been hired to work for. So just share your story with them, sir.
Well, first of all, Eliel, thank you for having me on this podcast. It's an honor to be here with you and to be here with Councilman Burkholder. I got a chance to meet him several years ago when I first arrived here in Midland. There was a community event where it was set up to meet the manager, being me in that case. And I was able to meet a lot of good people in Midland that went to those events, and he was one of them. So we have been talking for the last 3 years, and he's really been motivational and inspirational at the same time, in that a lot of people that had a lot of questions about him. And when they asked me about it, I said, he's solid. I mean, he's going to be his own person. You know, if you want him to look at an issue, you're going to have to come ready and prepared. He's going to ask a lot of questions. I said, but once he understands it, he believes it, he's going to champion it. If he doesn't believe it, he's going to tell you, but be civil about it. And he's he's a very tough person with a lot of compassion, and I'll say that about him. That's what I know about him. Since I've known him, I have a lot of respect for him and what he has done for his family business, and then for his wife and kids, all his kids. So he's someone that young people can look up to, and someone that young people should look up to. You want to know a little bit about me. So I was born and raised in Lubbock, Texas. I grew up on the east side of Lubbock. And I went to schools that had a lot of challenges, and there was a lot of strife and a lot of trials during that time. And so you wanted me to speak about God. I know that before I got in the military, it was always God first and family. And when I got in the military, it's God, family, and country. And that's very, very important, that people who live in our country should honor our country, should be glad that they're here.
Absolutely.
And should assimilate, and because we're Americans, and we should love our country. And if we don't love it and there's something the matter with it, do like what Councilman Burkholder did and others do, get elected and make a change, make a difference, or be in a position where you can make a difference. But I was born and raised in Lubbock. I grew up on the east side of Lubbock. We grew up very, very poor. I remember running out of food on Wednesdays. My dad got paid on Friday, and being hungry between those times. So I'm very thankful for what I'm able to do for not only my wife and kids, but also my mom and my siblings. And I probably have more co-signings on loans than I care to mention. And I know John and I, Councilman Burkholder and I have had conversations about that, where he's helped a lot of his family members as well. That being said, I went from Lubbock and I played football in high school, played football in college. I started all 4 years and had a wonderful time. And then I got hurt. That's when I got in the military. And that's when I got married too. I got married when I was in college. And when I got into the military, I was deployed immediately. Was gone for about 5.5 months. And I was in the combat zone. And so when I came back from that, and when I got out of the military, because back then they had the early out program, and so my wife didn't want me to deploy all the time. But when I got into the reserves, when I took that early out program and took advantage of it, and I got out of the reserves, or I got out of active duty rather, and got into the reserves, I actually deployed more during the reserves. I later had a deployment in Bosnia and some other different excursions into Central and South America. So I've been away a lot from my family. So I retired in 2010. So I served a total of 22 years, several years in active duty, and again the remainder in reserves. So when I came back from one of those deployments and got out of active duty, I went to the city of Lubbock, and that's where I'm from. And I had a job with a bank. Then I had a city secretary who was the wife of one of my coaches from high school, would always tell me, "You'd make a great city manager," and I didn't know what that was. So anyway, she got me an appointment with the city manager. His name's Larry Cunningham. And then I got my first job there, and I turned down the job at the bank and took the job in Lubbock. And I held about 14 positions, the last one being the interim city manager in Lubbock, Texas. And I tell you, I was thinking I was doing something wrong, because every time I'd go on a deployment and come back, I'd get promoted. And I thought I must be doing something wrong. And I really did question that. I was like, what am I doing wrong? But I did a lot of different things, like Ports to Plains, which is now an initiative that's going strong. We created that in Lubbock, and I was the lead person for that. And when I learned in Lubbock that you could transform cities and do different things, like I was the lead person for the East-West Freeway. I was the lead person for the project that was done across the street from Texas Tech, which is the Overton project. They used to be called the Tech Ghetto. So being involved with a lot of these projects, it really kind of changed the landscape of that city, my hometown, was very inspirational, and it got me to thinking, hey, you can actually make a difference, right? And I didn't know anything about being in the seat, being the city manager, but when I was the interim, I kind of understood all the good things, but the challenging things that come with that. So then from there, I went to the city of Harlingen. That's where my dad grew up. I figured if I can't run the city that I grew up in, I'll run the city my dad grew up in. And that's where he grew up, in Harlingen, Texas. So I was a city manager there for 2 years. Then I went to the city of Dallas, was an assistant city manager there. And then I went to Irving, was city manager there for 8 years. I went to El Paso, city manager there for 9. And then I've been here 3 years, a little over 3 years now. So I really enjoy what I do. I really enjoy working with the council, and I think this community is wonderful. I know whenever I first got here, I went to go speak to the Women's Republican Club, and what I told them was philosophically I wasn't aligned with a lot of what was happening in El Paso, but we put a strategic plan together, just like I did in Lubbock, Harlingen, helped do one in Dallas, Irving, and El Paso. And when we put a strategic plan together and you get the council's direction and you execute that, and being able to execute something there where maybe we weren't philosophically aligned politically, because we all have our political views, right? And to still get some success, get some achievements. I told that club, I was like, here, I'm really looking forward to being here because I'm very much aligned with a lot of the way we think in Midland. Being from Lubbock, it feels like it's home, and now Midland is home. I do consider it now our home as a family, and we love it here.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Guys, again, thanks for your time. You two are so busy all the time, but I believe it's important for the community, more people in the community, and not only to know you and who you are as a person, right? As a citizen, as a son, as a father, as an outstanding member of the community, but what you do specifically, being the positions that you are. John, let me ask you about one thing that we were talking about this before, and I was thinking here as I was listening to both of you talk about everything that you have been doing in your lives, both in the private sector, now in the public sector. And I was thinking here, a football player, when a quarterback, what's his name? I should not have forgotten his name, that got married with a Brazilian supermodel, Tom Brady?
Tom Brady. Yes.
Tom Brady. So when you have Tom Brady do what he did best, that probably most certainly was like an explosion of satisfaction inside of his heart. And, I achieved my goal, not only being champion with the Patriots back then, but again, I achieved my purposes. I trained for this. And you can compare that with a bakery, a cook that is in a restaurant when he does a very good food, or the work of a mom that takes care of the children well, drive back to school, back from school. Everybody has a purpose in life. And when you achieve everything that you're doing in the position that God planted you, there's this satisfaction, that is this joy. I'd like to ask you, John, specifically when you cannot say that you transition from the private sector to the public sector, but when you started working in the public sector, in terms of urban planning, in terms of how the city has been transformed in the 3 years that you are 2, right? And then Mr. Gonzalez after that for 3 years. And then Mr. Gonzalez is going to chime in as well. What is the satisfaction? What is the most important thing that you would say, this was so great that I did, and my vote helped achieve for Midland in terms of, I feel like a Tom Brady right now. I achieved what would that be, John, in terms of urban planning and urban development, something that we talk a lot about, and especially you guys in the public sector?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing when I came in bright-eyed with a lot of ideas. And what generally works in the private sector does not always translate to being able to work in the public sector because of there's lots of rules and regulations on how things have to be done. And so you kind of have to adapt to that and understand what has to be done in order to be able to move forward. So I got a really good understanding of what we could do. And so for me, one of the things we talk about planning, that was one of the things that got me involved. I got to serve on our planning and zoning committee for a year, so I got to learn a lot about that aspect of things. And I would say that we've been very instrumental in the deployment of how things are being laid out in the community, looking at it from the perspective of the neighborhoods and the landowners as we develop, and we try to build a better Midland. We've held a lot of these developers to a higher standard on building. We want to make sure things are done right and for the long term in Midland. This is Midland that I grew up in. It's a Midland I plan on being in for a very, very, very long time in my life. And I always say, and Tommy can attest to this, that we get one shot to do something, so let's do it right the first time.
Excellent.
And I truly believe in that. So in that time, we have expedited we've gone to an online process for permitting, where we can get permits out a lot faster. There is a digital trail that we can keep up with these things to make sure that, A, there's no funny business. B, that they are being taken care of in a timely manner. Our inspections have gone down to 24 to 48 hours for a residential inspection to get things done. All of these things help in the process of planning and developing better, more efficiently, and also save money in the long run, because as a developer is trying to build more cost-effective housing, the faster that they can get their permits and the less time that they're waiting for these inspections and things of that sort, they can continue to build and not hold up their process, costing them money. And hopefully that translates into a better price and a better product for the people in the city of Midland in the long run. But I am also very much in, if it doesn't make sense for it not to be there, maybe it shouldn't be there. If it makes sense for it to be there, then let's put it there. I was very adamant about, we had some zoning issues, and where there was a zone map change based on some state classification several years ago. And when that happened, there were certain neighborhoods that fell under classifications that didn't necessarily, that's not necessarily what they were. And what I mean by that is that when you zone something, you may see something as an SF1, SF2, SF3, which are single family homes, and you have commercial and you have agricultural exemptions. Well, we were seeing some of these things intertwining in some areas, and it didn't make sense. So since then, there's been an overlay that's been created to help alleviate some of those problems, because some of these people may need to come in to get permission to do things at their own house that they shouldn't have to do because the zoning was not properly being zoned. Right. So we're looking at these things and trying to fix that. Now, you talk about the Tom Brady moment. There's really been a couple of them for me. One being in the world of efficiencies and processes from one of my previous jobs. To me, processes and efficiencies are huge. That's what leads to real tax savings, to dollars being saved, happier employees, and a better ran organization. And I talked to Tommy about this from the very beginning. He was gracious enough that we got to create a team for our procurement side of things. And in the procurement side of things, we found that there were several problems that were really creating some bottlenecks and creating problems and really creating issues for us not to get the best potential deals. And then if you're going to be a good steward of taxpayer money, you need to make sure you're getting the best deals possible on things. So we went in with a team. We identified that there was problems we had a system that was completely unnecessary. We eliminated that. We took the system that we had, we strengthened it, we made it better, more efficient. We fixed product codes to where the proper codes, as somebody is bidding on something that the city needs, there's a code that's associated with whatever that is. Say if it's air conditioning work, then there's a specific code for that. We found that a lot of these codes were inaccurate and they needed to be fixed. And so sometimes when people were being sent they're called RFPs, a request for a proposal, they were going to the wrong people. And so, and that's no dig on anybody. It's just the facts. There was things that needed to be fixed. And so we've since fixed that. We've rewritten some SOPs, some standard operating procedures on how we do things. And then there's been just a mindset shift that we're not going to accept single bids. We're not going to accept the status quo. We're going to go out there. We're going to challenge department heads. We're going to challenge our employees and our people to go out there and spend the money like it was their money. And we have seen great success. Tommy's probably got a dollar amount. I don't keep up with it a lot of times, but it's in the millions of dollars since we've been keeping up with this that we've saved in doing that. And it's really creating a mindset shift in the organization that it's funny when people review things with me, they make sure and let me know how many people have bid on this and what the high bidder was and who the low bidder was. And why we should go this direction. And so we're getting all kinds of information that we didn't get before, and it's making the city better. We're getting a better product, and we're really expanding the horizons of vendors out there because technology is always changing. And if you stay with the status quo, you're going to get left behind in a technologically changing world. And Tommy and I just talked about something in our water system where I think we may be able to do something even bigger and better, and we're going to look at that. So we keep up with those things. The other thing has really been some development in our water system. Water is a really big thing for me when we talk about infrastructure. And we had a crisis when I first got into office. And it's funny because I don't really talk about a lot of these things. I'm always the type of person that I'm not a showy person. I like to answer with results and just to get things done. I'm not looking at it for self-glorification by any means. My job is to make sure that we're doing the best job that we possibly can and solve problems, fix problems, and make the city better for Midlanders. So sometimes it takes a little bit for people to pry everything out of me. So I'm trying to do the best here. But we did have an issue earlier in the year or in last year, which was really kind of thrown in the fire, and we identified quite a few problems in our water system. And again, this is not a knock on previous people. It is what it is. We had an infrastructure that was really falling way behind, was not being maintained properly. We didn't have proper maintenance schedules. We didn't have ways to read pressure in our systems. We had some things that were working that were not working like they're supposed to. We had redundancy issues. There was just a myriad of different issues. And so after this, we put our heads together during this whole ordeal. We got through it. We had a lot of people coming in from the inside to help us out as well. We had some great teamwork. But after that, we did what we call an after action report, which is something we do if we have some type of incident these days. And that's something that Tommy has brought to the table. It's an efficiencies training. But what we do is like, let's identify the root cause of the problem. Let's not look at the Band-Aids. What's the root cause? How do we keep this from happening again in the future? And we created this AAR. And since then, we've been able to go in and address a ton of things that are in there. And we now have monitoring systems, which have already kept us out of hot water 11 times since those monitoring systems have been put in place. I will tell you, when I brought up monitoring systems, we didn't have any. Somebody had mentioned, well, the last time we looked at this, it was going to cost us probably $500,000. That's not the case. We got it done for about $60,000. And so, and again, it's that mindset shift to being able to use the technologies that we have available to us. We have some very smart people in the oil and gas industry that have revolutionized technology. And there's so much of that we can implement into a municipal level that will save us tons of money and just create a better product at the end of the day while saving money. And so we're working on a redundancy plan for our pipelines. We are working on a redundancy plan for water at the moment as well. So we're looking at bringing an old water field back on to be able to bolster the water supply here in Midland. But and so that was really a crowning achievement, and waiting to get that done to be able to have water security for the city of Midland for a very long time to come, and a very robust infrastructure that is going to be more dependable for our constituents is a huge drive of mine. I've also been able to work on several contracts, which have led to some pretty significant savings and some monies brought in by the city of Midland, savings in some cases. I recently worked on a very, very large contract that, when put in front of me, I was not the biggest fan of it because I felt there was too many shortfalls. Just using my contractual experience, I was able to renegotiate several of those terms that put Midlanders in a much better condition, much better position, and really create some safety nets in some of these situations. So overall, I've been able to help out on quite a few different things. The council and staff have been gracious enough to listen to me, ask a lot of questions, answer a lot of questions. And as Tommy said, if I see something I don't like, I'm not afraid to say, I don't like that, and here's why I don't like it. But I also respect everybody's opinions when listening. I will listen to you. And then we're going to come up with the best solution possible. And they've allowed me to do that and bring a lot of that outside knowledge in to the city. And I truly feel that our city is much better today because of it.
Excellent. Many Tom Brady moments in 3 years, in 2 years, right? I love that.
Yeah.
Just passing the ball to you, Mr. Gonzalez. And again, I was thinking here about John. It took me a while, Mr. Gonzalez, a couple of months to call John. I used to call him Mr. Burkholder, and I kept that until we got, some closeness. I hope that this happens with you as well. Sometimes I dare call you, just bold enough to call you Tommy. I don't want to do that now. So, Mr. Gonzalez, same question to you, sir. Tom Brady moment, not only in Midland, but for you, because you also was city manager in other cities. In general terms, what would be considered for you as a city manager a Tom Brady moment for, something that brings you the sense of accomplishment, the sense of satisfaction for yourself, and of course for the accomplishments that you get?
Well, having played quarterback, like I was mentioning, that I played
there you go. That's your language then. Easy.
Yeah, I started for 4 years, and so I know that I need people to block, I need people to catch, I need to know the plays, I need to listen to the coach, right? And so in this case, we have coaches. The mayor and council have been very collaborative. Councilman Burkholder he's being very modest, but there's been a lot of things that he's brought to the table. But the council, by us listening to them, and we do a lot of listening as a staff, and having done this so long, what I've trained our staff and what we've spent money and dollars on in terms of the training is developing our staff, because we need to share with them and share the ideas and philosophy of force multipliers, building our intellectual capacity, team building, and really a lot of what Councilman Burkholder talked about doesn't happen in a lot of cities, because in some organizations, the administration are like, well, that's operations. And I'm like, I want to use all the talent we have. And that starts with the mayor and council. And so the mayor wants a very collaborative environment, and she's led that process. Councilman Burkholder, when he came on, he's added to that. The other council members all have their unique attributes that they bring to the table that has been very influential in how we execute all of the things I'm talking about. So I would say what I'm going to share is really not a Tom Brady moment. It's really a team moment, and led by the mayor and council. And I would say to you that I'm going to hit on 4 subjects, and there's a lot of things I can cover, but I'm going to hit 4 different things. We talked about planning and development, and what's the important piece of that, and how we have shaped, shifted, and molded kind of our environment so that we can continue to not only keep up with growth, but get ahead of it. So affordability is very important. So one of the things that the mayor and council were involved in, and that was the renegotiation of the CRMWD contract. Why is that important? That is important on that take or pay that starts in 2030, that we've reduced that take or pay amount, that over time, over 30 years, we're saving over $100 million. That means roughly $3.5 million in today's dollars. That number is going to be bigger because obviously with additional costs that would lap onto it, it's going to be much higher than that. But we've saved over a 30-year period over $100 million, and it's got a 10-year extension. So the first point I want to cover is it's important that we keep our rates affordable. It's important that we look out for those costs. It's important that we look ahead. We look 5-10 years ahead. And that's what we did with that contract. We want to keep water rates affordable. We want to ensure that we're paying attention to that, because development water is crucial to development. So that's the first thing I wanted to cover. The other thing I wanted to cover, that over the last several years, we've added over 100 miles of roadway. And that roadway wasn't just from city dollars, from taxpayer dollars. It also came from local taxpayer dollars. It also came from state partnerships with TxDOT. It also came with private developers who have to pay their share of that development. So we've added over 100 miles of new roadways that we have to maintain. So we're over 700 miles, and it's important that we build new roads, take care of the existing roads. And the existing roads, we're nearing almost 30,000 potholes that we're repairing a year. Now, some have said we overanalyze here at the city, right? And so when we talk as a city staff, we talk to each other and said, well, that says the obvious. And I've said this to council publicly. That means we don't have a good roadway system if we have that many potholes. but we were doing 13,000 potholes before. Now we've doubled that to 26,000. What it does say is that we're paying more attention to it. We're getting after it quicker. Maybe we're more efficient. Maybe we're listening more to the customer. You know, a good case in point is See Click Fix. We're up to over 20,000 complaints being resolved at a 98% effective rate. So when you look at, you were comparing quarterbacks, having a completion rate of 98% is unheard of. You know, if you're in the 70s, you know, you're doing really, really well, right? You're walking on water. So I want to really give credit to our staff, really give credit to the council's leadership on the fact that water is very important. So that re-engineering that contract was vital. Secondly, adding more miles to our system is obviously part of the development of a city and how you develop a city properly. And then how do you maintain that? And how the fact that we're doing better at being more efficient with not only potholes, but with complaints that we get. And the fact that this council has funded over $9 million annually on maintenance, when that number several years ago was just $1 million. So this council puts their money where their mouth is. They say this is our vision. They say this is our priority, and then they fund that vision. They make it happen through funding their priorities. The third thing I wanted to mention is the council's been very adamant about solving problems that have been a problem for a very, very long time. One of those problems was there was a piece of property or a part of Midland that was annexed in the 1980s. So you got almost a 50-year problem that doesn't have water to it. So that's almost 50 years. That wasn't this council or even the previous council or the council before that. That happened in the 80s. So what this council said is, okay, let's listen, right? Just like See Click Fix and just like these other things, let's listen to the public. Let's do something about it. So we did. Because the council had the foresight, they leveraged some MDC dollars to do studies, not only on the Todd Road extension, but also on Wadley. And on the Todd Road, in this particular example, we were able to get $26 million that we later, when it got bid out, it was only $20 million that it cost us, but it was a $26 million project that finishes out Todd Road and does the overpass. But it also gives us an opportunity to do a water line underneath that development. And so we're getting water to that annexed area that hadn't had water in almost 50 years. So that's going to help a neighborhood that's in that's in need of water, and it's going to continue that development in the Northeast. So again, that's a priority of the council to do development in the Northeast corridor. So that helped do it. So number one, redo the contract with CRMWD that saved over 100 million. Number two, we have over 100 miles of new roadways, nearing almost 150 new miles, and we're maintaining it better. We're more efficient with it. The council solved a 50-year problem, not only the water issue, but also development issue. And then the fourth thing I wanted to talk about is very similar to solving a long-term problem. The council also had the foresight to do a study on the Wadley extension. So Wadley that extends out to 158, it almost seems like there's good planning, right? Go figure that we would do good planning because the cities get criticized a lot for not planning effectively. And so what that study enabled us to do is leverage another $6-7 million from the state, and we were able to get that project done in conjunction with a lot of the new development, including the Costco development that's taking place. So those are 4 examples that I want to mention to you. There's lots of other examples I have, but I'll stop it right there.
Yep. Eliel, do you mind if I step in for just a quick minute here? Don't mean to break from our flow, but again, we talk about being modest. I think it is important to bring up that there's a few key things that Mr. Gonzalez left out. One, through improved efficiencies in our utility billing, we're generating $12 million a year that was missing on the table. That is something that had been missed and has been missed for a very, very long time and has now been fixed. That's $12 million that's going back into our utilities to be able to build future lines, to take care of things that need to be taken care of, and just creates a better running, more efficient utilities department. The other thing is the airport was being subsidized. It is no longer being subsidized anymore, from something just as simple as employment fees. And that's one thing that Mr. Gonzalez brought to the table, that, we're missing out on a lot of revenue here that we should have been acquiring for a very, very long time, and we were not. So we've now got an airport that's running in a surplus. And that hasn't happened in a long time. We have a golf course that is now running in surplus. It's no longer being subsidized. So there are these. I have a belief that I do not like to subsidize something. It needs to run on its own 2 feet. And so this is one of the things that we've looked at as well. So you talk about some home runs. That CRMWD contract was huge. Like I said, that saved Midlanders $100 million in the long run. So there's been a ton of generated savings just through efficiencies and looking at some of these contracts, questioning the firefighters' pension situation was another one that just through some really smart planning and tackling that problem now, that was a problem that we had seen that had been brewing for over 20 years. And it was something that had to be done. The can could not be kicked down the road, and it needed to be solved because, I mean, the realism is that could eventually, not right now, but eventually put the city into bankruptcy if it was to continue at the rate that it was. And so through some really smart planning, that was fixed. And through the really smart planning, ended up saving about $60 million in the long run of what it could have cost us. And so there's quite a few things to be really proud of as a city manager, as a councilman, as a council in general. And, these are things that during my time that I've been here that I can say, good job. This is what the city needed. This is putting our city in a much better position in the long run.
Councilman Burkholder makes a really good point. But I'll go back to the football analogy that you made. If you have good coaches and then as players you execute the game plan, then the coaches are the ones guiding that. If you have a bad coach, then you're out there executing bad plays, right? The council was the one that said they wanted cost recovery program, and they wanted us to execute it. They hired me to do that. They want operational efficiency. They want strategic partnerships, of which they've been involved in, like the Beal Park and the 60+ soccer fields. Council was involved in raising those dollars with the foundations. We got close to $25 million that doubled the money in that project. That's going to make it a wonderful facility for this community. So council was involved with that. They made that a priority. They want us to have financial discipline. So the last 3 budgets, there's not been a tax rate increase. There's been actually a tax rate decrease the last 3 budgets. This year, we're recommending a no new revenue rate. And what that means is last year, we had $65.2 million from property taxes. This year, we're only going to use $65.2 million. That means no new revenue. We have new construction that's about $2.5 million, and we're putting that into public safety. And when I say new construction, people say that's new taxes. Well, by definition it is, but if you have a brand new house, you have a brand new business, that's brand new, and they haven't paid any taxes. Obviously, you pay taxes on that facility. So that's what I mean by that new construction. So these kinds of vision statements, directives, plays, if you want to use the football analogy, that comes from council. And when they say we want responsible reinvestment, then it's those examples we've already given, whether it's roads, whether it's water, whether it's, hey, let's ask those tough questions in purchasing. Now, he's talking about me being modest. Let me pick on him and say he's being modest, because just in the stuff he's been doing with council's support and council's involvement, but the things that Councilman Burkholder himself has said, hey, I got questions here and there, and council has supported him and they've been championing it as well. It's saved over $8 million already. And it doesn't even include the indirect benefit where you have instances where we have better bids now. Even when we have a couple of bids, it's because they know that council's paying attention. Council and staff has policies or processes rather that we put in place, again, that's coinciding with council's policy. And we do our level best to do that. And when we don't do something well, hey, I threw an interception and we'll say it. And if somebody else missed a block, we'll take that blame and say, hey, they missed it, and we'll take it, council. And because I know personally, when you want to know about me, I told council this before in closed door sessions. When I interviewed for the job, I said, look, my own expectations of myself are higher than anyone's going to have for me. And I think that's what you want in this position. You want someone that's going to have high expectations of him or herself and is going to live up to it. and that's what people should expect out of this position.
I stood up here a little bit and for 10 seconds, because I wanted to bring this book here. This is a book that I wrote, and let me show you. It's in Spanish, but it says The Power of Values in the City as Network, the case Curitiba. Curitiba is the city where we left in Brazil. I have already shared a couple of the visions and the missions of the city that somehow transformed itself in 1965. And when we got to year 2000, when I started working there as director of foreign affairs, and I worked there for almost 6 years, directly connected with the mayor of the city. One of the things that I could see, not only in that city, but then Curitiba was the city in Brazil that pretty much opened the doors of the world for me. I worked in 24 countries of the world after working in that specific city in Brazil. It's a city with 2 million people, so no comparison, no proportion to Midland. But my point with you specifically here, and my question, so you can elaborate on that, would be how important it is, because again, we're talking about the football figure here, the idea of there is a coach and the players just comply with, and they just do what the coach is telling them to do. At the end of the day in America, we the people are the coach. Would you agree with that? And in the sense that what are the desires of the people? And what I wrote on this book as a compilation of everything that I saw there, and I saw there 2 other cities in the world, 93 cities, was how important is it for the community to be engaged, meaning this is what political science calls civic engagement or civic culture. How important is it, John, for the community to be a part of the process? And again, we have been discussing a lot of this, how important it is for the participation of the community in terms of building up together with the representatives and the staff members. I would like, John, for you to talk a little bit about that. And John, jump in. I mean, it's just a free for all here. Don't expect me to be giving you protocols. Just jump in. Let's have this as a very informal conversation. But John, I would like to hear from you in terms of the public engagement, the civic engagement, and how, and if in your mind, building something like that, like a big orchestra, it would be more efficient. And then what I have in my mind is I saw very efficient cities around the world, and I saw very beautiful cities around the world. But I saw rare, beautiful, efficient cities around the world, meaning the combination of beauty for the eyes, beauty for, people would walk around the city and say, like in Florida, a couple of cities in Florida that I was had the opportunity to drive by a couple of years ago, and you say, wow, look at this, gardens everywhere, flowers everywhere, beautification of the city. But when I started studying about the city, it was not as efficient as it could be. So that is my whole thing. I'm just giving you the background for that. John, jump in, please.
Sure. So one of the reasons that I'm even here on this council today is we talk about civic engagement. There was a problem that I needed to get involved in because I didn't feel what was happening in our neighborhood was right. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of other people that felt the same way. But out of this entirety of this neighborhood, I had the support of every single one of them, but the majority of them did not want to step up. They did not want to speak for whatever reason it may be. Some of them didn't feel comfortable, but some of them just, they just didn't want to do it. Some of them were too angry to convey the message that they wanted to convey. And so, but it was important for their voice to be heard. Right. And so that's why I stepped up and I took on the persona of the person that was leading the neighborhood, and because I needed their message to be heard. And so when we talk about civic engagement, it's extremely important to hear the public and what the public wants and what they think, especially when we're doing a development, something that is affecting them. We need to hear from the people that it is affecting the most, because we need to understand. Let's just use a development for example. Mm-hmm. I don't live where that person lives. They're the person who has to deal with that every single day. I need to know how they feel, what their concerns are. How do you feel best to address it? Because you are there all the time. And I am a representative of them to speak on their behalf. But it is extremely important to have that engagement. And it's unfortunate that we do not have a lot of that engagement today. We have people are so polarized today where sometimes they can't get along with one another. There's just so much fighting. People they just shut down and they don't want to communicate anymore. And I really want to get people out of that and get them civically engaged. We need not just civically engaged to understand what they want and what they need, but to get them civically engaged to understand what's going on in your city and how to become a part of it. And we see that today with voter turnout, which is extremely dismal. We see that when we have events where people can communicate with us. It's just been very, very dismal. And we are working, I know you and I have talked about ways of changing that, because I do want to reach constituents. I do want to hear people's opinions. I want to have hard conversations with people, but I want to have hard conversations that are going to produce fruit and good fruit. Yes, I want to be able to visit with a constituent, have an issue, a problem, an idea, whatever the case, and be able to expound on it, grow an idea, create something that is a vision of theirs if it's something that benefits the community. But we only do that through civically engaging with one another, but also engaging with one another with the intent that you want to induce change. You want to work with somebody. You want to help come up with a solution to a problem. You want to let me know what's going on, so that way we can have a good conversation and address it. And so it's extremely important to have that type of engagement. You and I have talked about that again, multiple ways of how that we can expand that, because I do represent the entire city. And that is not to be forgotten. I represent everybody from every side of town, and I do a lot to visit with a lot of different people. There are a lot of voices out there. There's just not one here and one here. There are a multitude of different voices, and it's important to be able to hear every single one of those voices. But again, I always want to create the environment to where I'm accessible, where people can talk to me. And, the thing is that I think sometimes people get frustrated because they say something and then they don't get exactly what they want. But we have to understand that there are 180,000 potential voices in Midland, and we have to be able to listen to all of them and come up with the best solution. But no one should be ignored. Everybody should be listened to. We should be able to have a conversation with everybody. And I want people to understand what we're doing, why we do it, why we may have to do it a certain way versus another way. But at the end of the day, I want them to feel like they are being heard and that they have a representative that will listen to them and work for them. And so I encourage a lot of people. In fact, I encourage an individual today. We have a group called Midland 101, which I know you were part of. I was part of as well. It's a great it's a great class that the city of Midland puts on that gives people over about a 7-month time frame the ability to sit in on every department in the city and understand how it works. But it also gives them a platform to be able to talk to not only to their council members, the mayor, but also the directors of the city, employees in the city, and it opens up that doors of communication. We do have things like See, Click, Fix that we talked about, where we're trying to find ways to be able to reach everybody and solutions to their problems. And I think we've been very successful in that See, Click, Fix. There's lots of we have boards and commissions that I always encourage people to get on as well. Those boards and commissions, we generally swap people out at the end of the year. There's term limits on all of those. But if you want to get involved with the city, that is a fantastic way to do it. And that's not for everybody, and that is completely okay. But because God has given everybody talents, God has put certain things on certain people's hearts to be in certain directions and some in others. And public service is not for everybody. But the thing is that we want to be available for people, and we want to have those conversations. And I need their input. I need the input of everybody. I need the input of the single mother, the multifamily, person over here that has 10 kids. I need the retired individual that sees things differently than a young family does. I need the business owner that has it. Now, I will tell you, me being a very conservative, godly person, I do have my limitations. And so I fundamentally believe in core Christian values, and I will uphold those Christian values. And so, but again, I do want to listen to people and respect people in their time.
Excellent. Mr. Gonzalez, whatever you want to share now, but if you could touch on the beauty, efficiency, combination, how do you see it here going on in Midland right now, ever since you started 3 years ago, and even your experience from other cities? Floor is yours, sir.
So to me, being from West Texas, I see West Texas. There's a lot of beauty in West Texas. A lot of people that aren't from here, they'll say, well, you don't have this, you don't have that. Well, a lot of the things you mentioned are natural to the geography of those places. They just naturally have those things that you're talking about. What I would say to you is that we've done a very good job here in Midland. The business community, the private sector, the foundations, the council, other entities that are tax supported here have all worked together to see a lot of things to fruition. I would point to some things that have happened recently that you can point to as successes, and those are the Midland Mary Lights. That's one thing I think of beauty that goes back to what we're talking about here, about it being a godly city, and this being a godly podcast, that we honor Jesus, honor God in the manner in which we should. I mean, this country was founded on Christian beliefs. Absolutely. So I do believe we have to remember that in order to get back to our inner beauty, right? And then what we as a city are focused on. So, Midland Mary Lights celebrates that, and it's a great way to bring the community together, a great way to show the beauty of that park that was done with private dollars, that's now supported with a lot of public entities that help pay for the maintenance of it. I think there's been new developments that have happened in the north. There's been new developments with parks development that we talked about. We've made some improvements to the Russell Aquatics facility as an example. That's something that's used by families. So I think we have a lot of amenities here that we are paying closer attention to, that we're developing, that we're adding value to. We're working also on ways to have signage point you in the right direction. I think people now, parking has always been downtown, but you really don't see it. It's invisible, right? I don't know if people have seen the new parking signs to our parking garages that are free. People can park there for different events. So I think we've done little things like that that are making us better, that are making things, more, easier on the eye, right? We're working on a project at the International Airport that has entryway signage to it. We've done some improvements at the airport so that when our visitors come in, there's things that are there for the Christmas celebration as well, that are adding to what was already there. I also think that it's important that when we look at these improvements that I'm mentioning, that we look at ways of how we can clean up our city. I know that we've got 2 litter abatement crews that we didn't have before, that the council asked for. Again, going back to policy, going back to the direction, and going back to the see-click fix complaints about, hey, you got a lot of trash on this intersection, this, that, and the other. So we're doing that on the streets that are traveled on the most. We're working closer with TxDOT to clean up the Loop 250 and other roadways like that. So there's a lot of things that we already have that are beautiful. We need to maintain it better. And so through the partnerships that I mentioned, through the priorities that have been funded by the council, I think we make those kinds of things better. And we've got new things, like I mentioned, whether it's Reyes Mashburn Elms, whether it's all the soccer fields, whether it's the partnership with the syndicate. Now you have a beautiful facility, indoor facility for young women and men for volleyball, for basketball, for indoor soccer. I mean, that's 130,000 plus square foot facility that cost almost $50 million. I think it was 40 some odd $1 million that the private sector stepped up and did, and they're going to maintain it and they're going to operate it. So that saves us $2-3 million in operational costs every year. So there's a lot of things like that we've created by working together. Again, going back to what I said about those strategic partnerships that council made a priority for us.
Yep. And
Excellent.
And real quick,
Go ahead, John.
I want to expound on something that Tommy just said there too. So we can have both. You can have beauty and efficiency, but it requires a plan in order to make that work. And there has to be priorities that you make a priority. And so in our strategic plan, one of our highlight points that everything has to fall back to, we have several different things. It's financial stewardship, economic growth, public safety, infrastructure and utilities, quality of life, and operational excellence and accountability. And so you can have operational excellence, which is a key priority, which we've seen that in a lot of the efficiencies and some of the things that Tommy just talked about. But then we're also that are positively affecting our ability to create better quality of life, because if you're using those dollars more efficiently and you're finding ways to make the city run better, then you can do some of these projects and some of these things that the public really, really wants. And it does provide a good, nice space for upcoming families and for anybody who wants to enjoy them.
So if I may punctuate some points that
Absolutely. Go ahead.
He made some points about some of this cost recovery, but he said so many things that people may have missed this one point that I think he made that I think we need to stop and talk about it just a little bit. The taxpayers of Midland 4 years ago were paying for subsidizing the golf course. That means $800,000 of property taxes were being used to pay for the golf course. Fees, like if you want to play golf, those fees should pay for that, not someone who's paying taxes who runs out of food on Wednesday, like I said, right? You gotta pay attention to things like that. Those have to be important, and they're important to this council. That's $800,000 that now can go into the general fund that can pay for public safety, as an example. When he mentioned the airport, we were funding it or subsidizing it with taxpayer dollars to the tune of $1 million a year. Well, now that $1 million is being used again for public safety, for roads. I mentioned the 100 miles of roads, almost 150, quite frankly, of new miles of road. That's over 700 that we have to maintain now. So that's almost $2 million that we didn't have before. And that happens every year. So that's now going to be $8 million because you got adding it. So those kinds of changes helps not only the general fund, but then it helps make the golf course better, because now you're charging what you're supposed to. You're making the improvements. When you talk about beauty, we're beautifying the golf course. There's improvements that are being made out there to the first 18 holes. There's improvements that are going to be made to the next 18 holes. And we're in a golf desert, literally. We're running out of golf courses. And so our golf course at the municipal course needs to be at a very high level. So I wanted to make that point. There's a lot going on at the airport. I won't get into it because that could be another 30 minutes, but there's a lot going on. And the reason that that's going on is because they now have money. Not only are we not paying $1 million to subsidize it, but Councilman Burkholder mentioned the employment fees. The lowest one was at like $11 and we were at $2. Now that's not to the taxpayer. That's people who fly in and out of the International Airport. So the taxpayer didn't have to pay any of that. So now they have almost $7 million a year that then goes into the improvements at our airport that then brings in more dollars to our airport. We're able to renovate other facilities to bring more dollars in to make that look better. So we have to have a first-class airport, and the terminal is amazing. We need to work on the outside of it. We're talking about a parking garage potentially in the future. There's improvements that are being done at Air Park that are going to improve the experience of how you come into Midland if you want to come in privately that way. So a lot of those things where we're saving money, those are reoccurring savings. So when you add up that money, let's say it's $25 million. Well, that's been going on now for almost 3 years. That's $75 million when you start adding it up. And when people wonder, how did we double the last decade? And then the last 4 years alone, we've gone up almost $40 million for public safety. how are we paying for that and still reducing the tax rate? And then if you want to have a discussion about the values, well, the values went down this year. We're going to no new revenue. So we're doing it with a tight budget, and we're doing it because we're utilizing all those philosophies, that those vision statements, those guiding principles that council puts forth, that they hear from the public. So to your point, it very much has 100% to do with what we hear from the public.
Yep. And LEL, I do want to add one last piece to that, because when we talk about the beautification of the city, that's not 100% the municipality's job. It's our job as well, as being able to self-govern ourselves, to control the way that we throw away our trash, to pick things up, to not litter, to not go out and make a mess of the facilities that we do have. I mean, everybody complains about how much trash that there is. How much of that is a self-governance problem? Now, ultimately, we're the ones that get stuck with trying to find a solution to fix it. But the bigger problem is that people aren't respecting their community. They're not respecting the surrounding area. And we do have a lot of people that are not from Midland, but for everybody should respect your community enough where you don't flick a cigarette butt out the road, you don't throw your cup out the road, you clean out the back of your truck to make sure that trash isn't flying all over the place, and you take pride in the city that you live in. You take pride in your home by making sure your front yards and things are clean. And these are all things that we shouldn't have to tell people, but unfortunately, we live in a society where it's just easier for somebody else to take care of the problem. And that's something that we need to address as a city of Midland. It's not all the city of Midland's responsibility. We need people to step up and take responsibility for themselves as well when it comes to the trash piece of that.
Well, if we need 30 minutes to talk about the airport, we need 30 hours to talk about self-government. So in order to honor your time, gentlemen, what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge my point 3 and 4 here so that you can wrap this up. And the two topics, the third and the fourth on my list here is the Midland 2024-2029 strategic plan that you guys already touched in several portions of it. But I would like for you to, as you respond, that not specifically, well, not with specifics, but in general terms, what the strategic plan is. What is your vision? So this is the two-part portions of the same question. How do you see, grounded on the 2024-2029 strategic plan, how do you see Midland in 2050 if the plan is implemented the way it is, with the input, of course, and the participation and an engagement of the community? Let's start with you, John, and then Mr. Gonzalez, feel free to jump in.
Every successful business, and some people say, well, the city of Midland is not a business. I understand it's not a business, it's a municipality, but it doesn't mean that a lot of the things from the business world don't translate into a city. Right. But if you're going to have a successful business, you have to have a plan. Mm-hmm. You have to have everybody on the same page, speaking the same language, understanding what the goals are, and being able to tie everything they do to these goals to make sure that they are all in alignment. And when everybody has an understanding of what the goal is, and you have leadership that can execute that plan as well, and you have people that follow the plan, and you're going to be successful. Yeah. And so, but that's something that we do have councils that we switch. I mean, every several years we have elections where you have county, you have city leadership, you have federal leadership. I mean, we're constantly rotating. And so my hope is that even future councils and people that are looking at this see the success that these kinds of plans can bring to the city. Mm-hmm. And as long as you stay with that type of mindset, that you have to have a plan in place, you have to have these efficiencies, and all of these things ultimately benefit the citizens of Midland, and you're taking that input from the citizens of Midland and you're developing something that is for them and for the betterment of their community, then you're going to have success. I personally truly believe that if we continue moving in the direction that we are with some of the efficiencies that we're looking at, I mean, we're just getting better and better all the time. But the thing is that, you know, Tommy and I have had this conversation before. Sometimes there's low hanging fruit, and it's really easy to pick the low hanging fruit.
Right.
It gets much harder to pick that really high hanging fruit. But so you're constantly having to strive to be your best. You're constantly looking, when you fix this particular situation, what's next on the list, because the moment you think that everything is perfect is the moment that you're going to fail. We always have to make sure that we're staying on top of things, and things change. But I truly do believe that, again, if we have a plan like this, we have a council that has these same type of visions, that is putting the constituent first, and that is working on efficiencies and creating some of these great quality of life projects, and just the accountability that you need at a city level, we're going to be a very successful city. Now, ultimately, too, we talk about putting God first, that this all has to be spirit-led. We have to put God first. We have to understand who is in charge, and we have to understand that everything that we do ultimately is for His glory.
Yes.
And
John, I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
No, you're fine.
I'm just going, before jumping to Mr. Gonzalez, you, John, what is the population that you have in mind in 2050? Do you believe that we are going to explode to 200,000, as some voices say? Do you believe, the way you see things right now, of course, it's a frozen picture, right? It's not a video, it's a picture. What is your perspective in terms of population that we're going to have in terms of between now and 25 years, 24 years until 2050, John?
So there's a few key factors that I truly believe are going to play into this, and it depends on how these all play out over the long run. First off, we know oil and gas is the king revenue driver for this area. Right. And as long as oil and gas is king, we're going to, I feel, continue to see that growth. One thing that oil and gas companies have moved into is more of an efficiencies-based way of operating, which helps them be able to absorb some of the roller coasters that we see in the oil and gas industry and the ups and downs. So that is number one. Number two is the diversification of industry outside of oil and gas. So that's one thing that we see, the spaceport becoming a much larger topic of discussion. We've seen AST coming in. AST is supposed to be bringing in 1,500 jobs. I will be the first one to say I love space things, but I'm also very cautious of some of these things, because I understand that I akin it very much to the .com bubble. We have a lot of companies with a lot of great ideas, and eventually a lot of those are going to get weeded out, and there will be people who stay. We want to make sure that we're making the best choices possible. But as we move into a more technological future, I think that is definitely a path, an avenue where we could see continual growth. And even if the oil and gas industry starts to fade a little bit, this is something that can be supplemented by the air and space industry if we do it right and get the right people in here. The third piece of that is really the state of Texas. So the state of Texas has been very inviting to all of this outside industry, and especially when you see overbearing communistic policies that you're starting to see in some of these other states, in New York, Michigan, California, and you're seeing more of a conservative-based people want to move out of those places because their cities are turning into trash, as well as the inviting the inviting policies that we have here in the state of Texas for businesses. I'm assuming you're probably going to see more people continually move off into this area to escape some of those things that they're dealing with in some of these other states. So as long as those three things continue, I think that we will continue to see increased growth in the city of Midland.
Mr. Gonzalez, your perspectives for 2050, do you agree with John integrally, totally, or would you have anything different from that in terms of your vision to the future?
No, I think he's spot on. I would just say that more directly, when you ask the question about what does he see, what do I see, what do we see in 2050,
Mhm.
I would think we would see safe and beautiful neighborhoods, a vibrant regional economy, exceptional recreational, cultural, and educational opportunities, and do it with a high-performing team. I
Mhm.
think that's exactly what council wants. That's exactly what we've been working towards. I think we have some evidence of that we're sharing that are facts, not just what we think. They're just real results / facts. I think in today's environment, people just throw out a bunch of things and they think because they say it and they say it loud enough that it can be true. And that couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah.
So that's what I see in 2050. And I do think that we will get over 200,000 if we have the same growth trajectory that we're currently under. And with all the factors that Councilman Burkholder brought into the mix or the discussion. But I think if the growth continues at the current pace, you will be over 200,000 in 2050.
Do you guys believe, any of you, neither of you, not either, both of you speaking? I'm learning English, brothers. I'm getting there.
I still haven't.
In terms of, oh man, sometimes I can tell you a funny story that happened this week. I've been teaching in a church in Andrews, and I was corrected, like my pronunciation, and I was like, oh my God, I still have to learn English. My question to you that just popped in my mind right now is the integration between Midland and Odessa. Do you see Midland, Odessa becoming a metro area? Of course, nothing close to Dallas, but do you see both cities conurbating for good, and for us not to even be able to see a division between both territories, both cities? John, what do you think?
This is a topic of conversation with me living in Midland as long as I've had, is that one day we were going to see Midland and Odessa become this new city called Medessa. And we've seen more of that in the time that I've been here, and over the course of the past 35 years that it's started to grow a little bit more like that. But there's a lot of challenges that we face to even potentially make that happen. And most of them have to do with water, utilities, infrastructure, and quite honestly, a lot of the oil and gas activities that are between the two areas that are going to make it much more difficult to fully integrate into one city. So I personally, because of some of those factors, look, I'm not saying that those aren't factors that you could potentially overcome at some point in time. I'm just going to say that it's going to make it very difficult to integrate into one giant community, because you will have a lot of places that you just cannot develop. And so I do see Midland is busting at the seams, moving north. We're already encroaching into the Martin County line. We're moving further to the west in some aspect. We're moving further in just north in general. So, but the city of Midland, we've also talked about and seeing some plans of us moving either or further northeast.
Mm-hmm.
And if anything, I think that we'll probably see continued growth more towards the northeast side, and then to a certain extent to the west side. But hey, I could be wrong. When I remember as a kid, when we got a super Walmart on Midland Drive, I know people have heard me tell this story, there was hardly anything out there. The loop was a very barren place, and Green Tree was like a whole other city in its own because it was so far outside of town, and there's so much that's integrated. So only time will tell, but I do think that those are going to be some limiting factors that will ever allow us to fully integrate as a city.
I've been here for 10 years, and in 10 years, the city changed a lot, John. I mean, not only past the loop here in the north, but again, when I drive around, there's some places that I drive around, and I remember driving 8-9 years ago. It is a whole different animal. It is just completely different, changed. Mr. Gonzalez, your perspectives in terms of integration between Midland and Odessa, anything to complement there?
I would just add, just not different, but just add to what he said and say that practically speaking, we're already synergistically working as a metroplex. And I think when it comes to development, I think Odessa uses Midland and Midland uses Odessa to say, hey, this area, which are 3 miles away, 5 miles away, depending on where part of town you're in. I said, this general area is, 400,000 people. And then you put it in Ector and Midland County, and you start growing that number to try to attract whatever it is we're working on that this community would like to see here in Midland or Odessa. So I think practically speaking, that's happening. And I think the 191 corridor will merge cities together, but I don't know that they will be functionally operating with one another, because I think at the core, it's two different cities and there's just basic competition in that. That doesn't mean it can't be friendly competition, but there is competition. I mean, I believe that's a fact. And I believe where there's opportunity to work together, we're absolutely going to do it. Just like I think they're absolutely going to do that as well. But I think where there's opportunities where we're competing with each other, we're going to compete, and sometimes there's sharp elbows in that, depending on what the subject matter is. But we have a really strong relationship with Midland, with Odessa and Ector County. And as we do with all the taxing entities here in Midland.
Yep. And, LEL, just to add on to what Mr. Gonzalez was saying. So most people don't understand too, that even the state dollars that we get from DOT for this area, we have it's an MPO, but that encompasses Midland and Odessa. So we're actually even sharing those DOT dollars in a lot of cases between one another. And so we have to plan together, and there's some give and take. There's not enough dollars to go around. Sometimes Odessa needs something that takes priority over something in Midland, but we do our best to make sure that we have projects that are ready to go, that those dollars can be used for, and we have to make our case of why this is needed here at that time, because the state is already kind of seeing us as one area.
So to that point, an MPO is a metropolitan planning organization, and most cities have that just in their city. Case in point, Lubbock has a Lubbock Metropolitan Planning Organization. Our Metropolitan Planning Organization encompasses 2 cities that are going to compete for those dollars. And we don't think our dollars are more important than the others, because we both have priority in the cities, and we both have high traffic volumes in both cities. Well, the East-West Freeway that we didn't pay for in Lubbock, we got 100% paid for by the state. It was just us. So, that, and then having strong political leadership like we have here in Midland, that coupled together makes it easier. Here, it's not that, anything worth achieving is not going to be easy. But here, sometimes we work closer. We have to work closer. We have to be more, have more ingenuity and more creative in how we can work on projects and still help our neighbor, and vice versa.
And on top of that, I know that you guys work also with the county intensely. And again, the county has, I was talking to former mayor of Odessa, Javier, the other day. We had that conversation many times, that there are some streets inside of the city of Odessa and in Midland the same, that is DOT regulated and managed, not Midland, not the city, and not even the county. So there, on top of everything, there's also the county that somehow has a say in the whole process. But guys, this is a conversation that I really wanted to have today. And as we talked before, I want this conversation to go out there to the community. This video will get to as many people as I can. Again, I don't have a big channel at all, but people multiply that. People that are, the surroundings here of the Nehemiah 220 Ministries. We have lots of people that have been not only praying for you guys, but understanding what you're doing, and they support you. They are willing to build alongside with you. And I have this very positive expectation in my heart of what is coming in terms of engaging more and more people. By the way, I really count on both of your help for next week, so we can bring as many people as we can for the discussion of the AI and the impact, social economic impacts of AI here in our local community by Mr. Eric Reed. He is coming from Tennessee. This guy has been helping a lot of white-collar professionals and to reorient their careers all around the country. He's coming here to minister to us. He's also a pastor. So if you could help me, John and Tommy, just spread the word and bring as many people as we can. I believe that this is going to be a wonderful moment for the community to grow, because again, AI is something that we should have talked about today. What are the impacts that we're seeing right now, and what are the impacts that we are somehow envisioning for 2050? But we will have other days, other moments to talk about that. John, would you please wrap us up in prayer, brother, and thank the Lord
Absolutely.
for this time, and also bless the city, bless the leadership of the city and the community, so that they'll give us wisdom, give us the capacity of doing the best for his kingdom and for the blessings of the people. As Jesus gave us 2 commandments only, right? And on those 2 commandments, everything is entailed there. Number 1, to love the Lord with everything that we are. Number 2, to love our neighbor as ourselves. So may Midland be known by that. And this is the goal of the Christian Commonwealth of Hope, this podcast. So John, please wrap us up in prayer, brother, if you will.
Absolutely. Thank you. Lord God in heaven, we thank you so much for all that you do for us, Lord. We thank you for your grace. We thank you for the wisdom. We thank you for knowing that you're in control at the end of the day, Lord. Lord, I ask you to continue to bless the city, bless the people that are on this call, bless the constituents, bless the people in the city of Midland, Lord. Lord, may we honor you and glorify you in what we say or do always, Lord. May it bring happiness to your heart, Lord. May we further the kingdom of God in the way that we present ourselves. Lord, I just ask you to have your hands on the guide of as this city continues to grow.
Mm-hmm.
I ask you to guide our decisions, Lord. I ask you to just be with us, give us the strength, the strength to be compassionate when we need to be compassionate, the strength to stand up when we need to stand up.
Amen.
And Lord, we just thank you for that. Lord, I thank you for LEL. Thank you for the Nehemiah School. Thank you for all that they do as well, Lord. May you continue to bless him and his family. Lord, I ask you to just impart the wisdom that you have on all of our citizens, Lord. Lord, we're in a country that is so divided today, Lord, and we know that you are master of all, you are king of all, and everything is to your plan. And Lord, we know that you can do anything. And I ask you, Lord, to bring this community together like it's never been brought together before, Lord. I ask you to soften people's hearts that need to have them softened.
Amen.
I ask you to resolve to the people that need resolve, Lord. And I ask you to just pour upon a spirit of community and this love for one another. And Lord, just because we love one another doesn't mean that we can't have healthy discussion when we need to have healthy discussion. But I ask you to guide those conversations, Lord, that they create productive fruit, Lord, that we see the fruits of your word, Lord, being poured out, that our city would be blessed beyond all measure, Lord, because we honor and glorify you as a city as a whole. And I say these things in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Excellent, gentlemen. Again, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for the time that you dedicated for this. As soon as I will send you the link soon, it's going to be live as soon as we hang this up. And then you can share with whoever you want to share. I will share on the side. And until we'll see each other again, God bless you guys. Mr. Gonzalez, God bless you. John, love you, my brother. Keep doing the good work out there. And anything you need from us, we're here. Our prayers are with you. I wanted you to know that. I say, Mr. Gonzalez, I tell John this all the time. I want you guys to know that there are people praying for you and your families every single day. Intercessors, people that are committed for praying for you and your families, covering you. So know that you have been receiving prayer all the time and being under a wave of prayer for many people from the city. I wanted you guys to know that. God bless you. Have a blessed weekend, and I hope to see you guys very soon.
I want to thank you for those prayers. They work. They serve as armor for us. So I want to sincerely thank you for those prayers, and God bless you both as well.
Yep. Same.
Amen. Thank you, my brother. John, love you, brother.
Same here, brother. Love you too, man. Y'all be good.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.